Sometimes when you're doing sales prospecting, whether it's cold email, LinkedIn, or cold calling, people just don't respond. And a lot of times it's very difficult to understand why it's not responding. If you don't know why they're not responding, then how are you gonna fix it? So in this video, I'm gonna give you my special framework that you can use step by step to figure out exactly why your sales prospecting is failing. And I'm gonna show you how to fix these mistakes so that you can start generating more meetings, whether you're doing cold email, LinkedIn, or cold calling. What's going on, everybody? It's Patrick Dang here. Before we get started, make sure to give this video a like, subscribe, and turn on notifications if you wanna see more sales training videos like this. And if you wanna take your sales training to the next level, I actually got a free training link in the description if you wanna check that out. But with that said, let's go ahead and get started. All right, so the first thing we gotta do is start out with the high-level strategy of how to fix your sales prospecting, right? So the strategies we're gonna talk about, it's going to work whether you're doing any cold emailing, LinkedIn, or cold calling. Doesn't matter what way you're reaching out, the foundations of how to understand why people respond and don't respond are gonna be exactly the same. So there's three key elements you gotta understand when you're doing any type of sales prospecting, and that's number one, who, number two, what, and number three, offer. Okay, it's gonna be your who, what, and offer. So essentially, if you nail these three things down, you can figure out exactly how to get more prospects to respond to any of your outreach. And if any one of these three elements are broken in your sales prospecting, well, not many people are going to respond. So you gotta make sure you nail all three. So the first one we're gonna talk about is your who, right? And essentially your who is who are you targeting? Who are you trying to reach out to, right? Some people might call this a niche, a market, or even a ideal customer profile. You know, no matter what you call it, it's essentially the same. It's who you want to actually reach out to. Now, the problem most people have is that when you are starting out any type of sales prospecting, your who is very broad, right? So someone might say, oh, you know, my ideal customer is startups, tech startups, okay? Okay, that's a direction, but tech startups is so broad. Like, what kind of tech startup? Are they well-funded? How many employees do they have? You know, what industry are they in? Are they in marketing, finance, real estate, healthcare? You know, who exactly are you reaching out to, right? You can't just say tech startups because that can mean so many different things. And if you're trying to sell to everybody, you're not really for anybody, especially in the beginning, because you may not have product market fit, meaning you don't know who exactly should buy your product and service. So when you are really thinking about your who and who you should reach out to, I would focus first on your industry, the company size that you're reaching out to, whether it's small, medium business or enterprise level, whether or not these people have money to buy your product and service is very important, right? A budget. So if they're a small startup, can they afford $20,000 per month software? Probably not. But maybe an enterprise might be a better fit, right? So the budget is very important as well. And the most important thing, in my opinion, is actually the pain, right? What problem does your ideal customer have that you can actually solve with your product and service? So when it comes to the who, right, you gotta really break this down and be very specific on who you're trying to reach out to. The more general you are, like saying, oh, I reach out to real estate agents, right? Okay, what kind of real estate agent? High-end, low-end, middle, successful real estate agents that are just starting out their first year, right? There's so many different ways to break down a niche, essentially. And the more deeper you can go, the more likely people are going to respond to any type of prospecting you do, because you're really speaking their language and you really have empathy for their current situation. So that's the first step. You know, when it comes to sales prospecting, if people are not responding, really think about your market. Who are you reaching out to, and are you reaching out to them in a way that's too general and that's why they're not responding? And if that's so, narrow it down and get very niche, right? And your pool of people you can sell to gets smaller and smaller, but at least you got to get some sales before you start going for the big fish, right? So start small, get some results, and then expand from there. So now the next element you have to understand is the what. What type of product or service are you actually selling, right? So if you're solving a problem for a specific market or a specific niche, there's many different ways, creative ways to solve a problem, right? For example, are you, let's say, creating some kind of software to solve a problem? Do you offer consulting services? Or maybe you are an agency and you actually provide the service and you do all the work for the person. Or maybe you don't provide the work or do the work, but you just give them advice as a coach and you coach them through it so they can do it themselves, right? right? So, whether it's a product or service or whatever it is, you have to understand how you're actually delivering on the goods, right? Are you doing it for them? Are you selling an online course? Are you selling a product or maybe a software? How are you delivering on the goods? So let's say you're doing sales prospecting, right? And you're let's say offering coaching services, and you want to coach people and you want them to do it themselves, and you just want to give them advice. You might find that particular market doesn't want coaching, and maybe they just want somebody to do it for them, right? And maybe they're willing to spend a lot of money to hire an agency to do all the work because they don't want coaching, they don't got time. Maybe they just want to hire you to do it for them, right? And so sometimes you might have to just switch up, what you're delivering to fit the actual market. If you find that your market doesn't want coaching at all and they hate coaches, then you gotta switch it up. Maybe agency model works better, or maybe you can provide a software as a service. I don't know, it really just depends on your market. So it's important to understand what are you actually offering? And a lot of times if you're doing any like cold email or outreach, well, sometimes you can just change your what and suddenly people become more interested because they like the way you're delivering on the goods. And the last step of all of this is going to be the offer, right? So let's say you got your market, you know who you're targeting, and you also have your what, as in how you're going to deliver on your product or service. Now it comes down to the offer. How are you positioning your product and service in a way where people are actually receptive to it, right? That can come down to what features you offer, what pricing you offer, or how long it takes for the customer to actually get the result you are promising in return for money, how easy it is to actually get that result. Does the person have to work hard at it, or is it really easy for them to get a result, right? These are all things that are packaged into an offer. Also, it can be things like any type of promotion, discounts, or any type of bonuses that you're going to offer as, let's say, an incentive for someone to make a decision sooner rather than later. So you can always position your offer in ways that will entice people to make decisions a lot sooner. So for example, let's say you're selling marketing services, right? Like you're selling, advertising services, whatever. So you might say, okay, we charge like $2,000 a month for, our fixed fee, and then we're gonna take 20% of your ad spend, right? So if you're doing it like that, what else can you offer somebody to entice them even more, right? Maybe they need advertising services, but they're just not, pushed over the fence yet. You might say something like, okay, so if we don't get you, XYZ result, then we will actually give you a full money back guarantee refund because we didn't get you the result. So then now the customer has more peace of mind that, they will get their money back if the agency doesn't deliver on what they promise, right? That's a way to position your offer. Or you can say something like this if you're selling software. I used to do this all the time when I worked in enterprise sales, and we would say like, hey, this is gonna cost $20,000, but if you can make a decision by the end of the quarter, we can give you, let's say, a 25% discount, and we're gonna charge you $15,000 instead of $20,000. But you have to make a decision by this certain day, otherwise we're gonna go back to the regular price. So in that way, I'm positioning an offer as a discount, and I'm basically encouraging the customer to make a decision sooner by a certain date to get that discount, right? So I'm doing them a favor by giving them a discount, and they're doing me a favor by closing on a certain time, especially valuable if you're trying to hit a certain number for your quota for the quarter or for the year. I give you another one. Let's say you're selling a coaching program, right? And you promise a certain result after 12 weeks. Well, maybe people don't have 12 weeks to actually go through a coaching program. They say, hey, I want results now. And so you say, okay, fine. I can charge you, it's gonna be more expensive, but we can do all of this in 1 month, right? So that's like 3 times faster to get the result, but you have to pay a higher price. And people might say, oh, it costs more money, but it saves more time, so it's actually worth it for me, and so they might move forward with a deal like that. So it's like, you can offer the same exact thing to somebody, change one element like price, how long it takes to get a result, and things like this, and actually people might be more receptive to that offer. But typically when it comes to your offer, this is gonna happen when you actually talk to the person on the phone and you're actually trying to close them. But when it comes to sales prospecting, the main important thing when it comes to getting that first meeting to even pitch your offer is understanding who you're going after, what you're offering, and what pains they have, and putting that in your outreach, whether it's cold email, LinkedIn, cold calling, so that they are more encouraged to actually book a meeting with you. And if people are not booking meetings with you and you're like, why aren't people responding? You gotta look at these 3 things. Are you going after the right market? If not, switch it up. or maybe your offer or their product or service that you're offering isn't that great, and that's not what people want. That's not what the market wants. So you have to switch that up. Or maybe it's your offer and how you position whatever it is that you're selling when you're on the phone. That could also be the case, right? So essentially there's three elements, right? Who, what, and offer, and you want to switch out one thing at a time if things aren't working, right? So if I was doing sales prospecting and people weren't responding, I might say, okay, I'm gonna keep everything exactly the same, the cold email exactly the same, except I'm going to switch who I target. Instead of small, medium business, I'm going after enterprise, and let's see how that works, right? And so basically, you do one switch at a time, and then each campaign is going to focus on, let's say, 20 companies that fit that those three elements. And then if it doesn't work, switch one thing like the who, what, or offer, and then try again. And eventually you do it over and over and over. You start improving your results because you kind of do it incrementally, kind of like a scientist in a sense, right? Like the scientific method, right? So that's essentially what I would do if I was doing sales prospecting and it wasn't working. I would switch one thing at a time until something did actually work. So if you enjoyed this video, make sure to go ahead and give it a like, subscribe, turn on notifications if you want to see more videos like this. Let me know in the comments what's your #1 takeaway that you got from this sales prospecting video. And if you want to take your sales game to the next level, I got a free training on how to sell anything to anyone. Link is in the description if you want to check that out and level up your skills. So with that said, my name is Patrick Dang. Hope you guys enjoyed this one, and I'm gonna see you in the next.